Welcome to the bold analysis. This man, David Kenani Maraga, the 14th Chief Justice of Republic of Kenya and the President of Supreme Court of Kenya, goes into the record as the first ever the best Chief Justice that Kenya ever got. And on this day, as the judiciary, as the Supreme Court celebrates 12 years of its existence, I am strongly convinced, and I argue my position, that when you look at Maraga regime, you cannot compare Maraga regime and Martha Koome. 3 critical decisions by the court on very pertinent national issues can convince everyone that Martha Koome's tenure has seen terror on the justice system. It's been terrific. Kenani Maraga, this man here, I think if you've had the privilege of comparing the two, then we'll celebrate what Maraga was made of.
Get me that Bible. In the name of God, the creator of the entire universe, I have never taken a bribe, and I will never take a bribe.
You are told something is brought and you are told, can you sign here? You look at it, you know what that means, but you sign because you are getting your cut, isn't it? At times, some clients want you to lie for them. They just buy you. You know, that's what it means. They buy you to do what they want. As soon as you do that, they have no regard for you. You're so cheap before them, they have very little regard for you. But if you refuse and stand firm, and there is a time comes later when they want somebody honest to perform some job, they will be the first ones coming to look for you. They're the first ones coming to look for you. Sorry again to use another example. When I was in the High Court in 2005 in Mombasa, I made some orders which irritated some people. I restrained the coming in of sugar, worth more than 30 billion shillings. So these people, the owners were frantic. They wanted this sugar released immediately, so they went looking for a lawyer who is my friend. You know what they asked him? Tell that judge to quote his price. This lawyer knew me. He says that man has no price. He says, no. There is no Kenyan who doesn't have a price. He says no. And in fact, that lawyer was very annoyed. He didn't want to be involved in that kind of thing. What is your price? What I'm saying is, are you ready to be bought? In some places, you may not be the one making the decision. But if you agree to be used, you're just a doormat. We are more than that. We are more than that. Sons and daughters of the living God, we cannot afford to be doormats. I want to appeal to you, young people.
In that he said, give me that Bible. And he's talking about jurisprudence. Those two sound bites. He's talking about, I have never taken a bribe. I bet no judge will do what Maraga did. No judge will take that oath and swear that I've never taken a bribe and I will never take a bribe. Today, the Supreme Court is celebrating 12 years of its existence. Within that time, it has had 3 Chief Justice CJs, Mutunga, Maraga, and now Koome. On a few occasions that the court has been called to action, jurisprudence has emerged as the currency, and the justice now is transactional. Justice in Kenya is a transaction between the judge, the lawyer, and the litigants. In fact, justice is now a barter trade. And someone says, on a light note, that you hire the lawyer, I buy the judge. Maraga goes to record as most outstanding CJ Kenya ever had. And I want to tell you that immediately Maraga left, I think that apex court just turned to be a jurisprudence court. Martha Koome tenure has been a tenure full of terror on the justice system. And let's look at these 3 decisions. Let's look at these 3 decisions that have been at Supreme Court have had to sway into action. The BBI case, the Supreme Court, the BBI was an attempt to amend the 2010 Constitution using the popular initiative. And the truth of the matter here is a referendum push is not only a legal exercise, but it's also a political tool for the players. William Ruto understood that he could run a smear campaign against the BBI to push a narrative that Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga were amending some slots of the Constitution so that they can extend the term of Uhuru Kenyatta. And he based, and at the time he also realized that the economy was not doing well. And he ran a political narrative that we could not amend the Constitution at a time the economy is struggling. So he ran a populist campaign against the BBI. Supreme Court, led by Martha Koome, stopped the BBI, arguing one of the most outstanding arguments that they denominated, that they were loud on, is that the president could not initiate a constitutional amendment using the popular initiative. And they had to go parliamentary. And Kenyans were denied an opportunity for the members of the public to decide. At that time, it was members of the public to decide. They would get to a referendum and they would choose what to amend and what not. The Supreme Court, that has been touted as the stabilizer, was used successfully in litigation by the civil society organizations that were inclined, that were serving the interest of William Ruto. Remember, it was not in the interest of the country, it was on the interest of William Ruto. Presidential election 2022. Koome, the Supreme Court hearing the case of Raila versus IBC and William Ruto, UDA presidential candidate. The case was, the Supreme Court used derogatory language to disparage and tear that petition into pieces, despite of glaring inconsistencies in that electoral process. Even for the first time, the commission split into pieces. The court had little of that and stood on the side of President Ruto. The third one is Rigathi Gachagua impeachment. In the public opinion, a public participation was done and the public said not a priority to us. The input of the public participation was not really considered, and when Parliament and the Senate executed the case, Mutuse could not defend her side. But in the Court of Justice, despite of Rigathi Gachagua launching 29 cases to stop that impeachment, all those cases were dismissed and he was asked to go to court later. He went to court later, conservatory orders lifted by a High Court bench after they were issued in Kerugoya, and the CJ rushed to swear in Kindiki even as some cases are still pending in the Court of Appeal. Of course, Rigathi have reconciled with that new reality of him no longer a deputy president of the country. And I know you can name them. You can name them. People have been talking about housing levy. Questions, very glaring questions on it. The court has said okay to it. And interestingly, when the presidency went on rampage against the judiciary, Koome was intimidated when the president went on rallies traversing the country, accusing the judiciary of being the weakest link in administering the government policies. Koome went to submission and had to have a closed door meeting the presidency so that the presidents will have their way in the court corridors.
Sasa nimeshangaa leo naamka baba, nasoma magazeti, naona ati yule ambaye ni jaji mkuu Martha Koome amesalimu amri, sasa anaitisha mazungumzo ya amani na Ruto. Unajua imenivunja moyo sana, kwa sababu juzi watu wa KWS walituambia tukikutana na fisi ati uongee nayo. Wakenya wakajaribu wakawaambia hizi fisi haziwezi ongeleshwa. You cannot have a dialogue with fisi. It is not possible. You cannot have dialogue with a hyena that is greedy and hungry for your children. Chief Justice Martha Koome nimemtumia ujumbe leo asubuhi. Nikamwambia wakati ambao tunaishi sasa, it requires bold action and people to stand up straight against dictatorship. Wewe badala ya kuitisha mazungumzo, hiyo mazungumzo mnaenda kusema nini? Mkubaliane na Ruto zile kesi atawaachilia zipite, zingine muachilie zipite, wananchi waendelee kuumia. Mazungumzo ni ya nini? Wewe uko na katiba. Wakati unaingia kama jaji mkuu, unashika Biblia unasema utatetea katiba. On this particular issue, the national government is wrong. The executive is wrong. The judiciary is right. Stand firm. There is nothing to dialogue over. Ati unazungumza na fisi ya kuachia watoto wengine wakule wengine. Inawezekana kweli?
And so, you can really see where the country is coming from. If you compare this to what Maraga did, Maraga went against all the odds. And he said, you don't want to open the servers? Oh, fine. Show us if these forms from 34 A's and C's have inconsistencies in terms of the identity and the safety and the security features. So it was about meticulously and stood for what is right, the truth. the country understands that even as the court, as the Supreme Court wants to celebrate 12 years of its existence, that regime of Martha Koome has been mad, has been catastrophic. And again, impeachment, remember, despite of the public interest on the case, the president's interest was packaged as national interest, and MPs will tell you that we are doing it to stabilize the country, but in real sense, they are serving the interest of the president. The courts were urged on the policy of non-interference with the political process, because impeachment is a political process. And so there's a lot of narrative for them to restrain from that political process. But why has Martha Koome's term been catastrophic? I can narrow it down to this three. Kindly subscribe to our channel, click the notification bell and like our videos, so that when we produce videos like this, you will be receiving notification. And we are heading towards 100,000 subscribers. So we're also urging you to kindly subscribe. And we've just finished Nyandarua mission. So what we normally do, and people have been asking me, Kevin, how would you support in my place? We use exist. If you stay in a society, that project is supposed to help the elderly, wamama wale wazee sana, and it's normally a shelter project. So you can point. Yeah, we go everywhere in all the 47 counties, in all the constituencies. We will try to centralize it, not just any other place. So we will go. Tutakuja. Sambia iko ni wapi? Tutakuja. Now, succumbing to, I think Koome succumbed first to executive blackmail. Today something is happening. I've listened to speeches from two gentlemen. Now there is that celebration going on that was held today by the Supreme Court, celebrating those 12 years of jurisprudence. People say it is jurispresa. And Nairobi Governor Sakaja and President Ruto are directly asking the courts not to accept litigation on matters that have been canvassed by political parties in manifestos, and they're being employed, for example, and they're being executed. For example, if a political party moves across the country and has a manifesto and speaks to the country about such a manifesto and how things they're going to do, then when they get power and they start implementing it, the courts should not litigate on such. And I'm like, the court space in litigation is what you are doing in conformity with the Constitution, because that is the document that the courts are supposed to present. I want you to listen to what Sakaja and Ruto are telling the courts today.
Respond to litigants, individuals that challenge a policy and a manifesto position canvassed among the citizens of Kenya, voted by the people of Kenya. And how do we use the place of manifesto to remove politics of personalities and instead try to, consolidate the place of politics that is around a program, a policy, an agenda? How does the court help us to consolidate the place of getting away politics from being about personalities or sometimes even about ethnicity and taking it to the realm of issues, policies, programs? And how do we work together to make sure that we consolidate the place of a development trajectory, a program, a national program, backstopped by the people of Kenya through an election and rolled out by an elected government. And sometimes, as was said again by my younger brother Sakaja, if you have a program canvassed by a political party, a government being rolled out, and sometimes it's not populist. Sometimes, as politicians, you have to balance between being popular and doing the right thing. Sometimes they don't go together. And then you sacrifice your political capital to do the right thing. But then the court on the other side decides to be popular and undermine the agenda that you have.
Because, Your Excellency, without them, this would not be a destination for investment. We congratulate you for the number of years that you've had. We have had ups and downs in this country, but everyone has always known that there will be objectivity in your findings. But your objectivity also must not mean popularity. It must mean just doing the right thing. I was thinking this morning when I came, what does it feel like to be a judge of the Supreme Court? I don't know, Emeritus Mutunga, how does it feel like? Chief Justice Maraga, it's almost a godlike, the finality of your decision. I would draw you to one of the points by Khalil Gibran on punishment and crime. And he speaks to it, that must be exercised in a way that is judicious. Because ultimately, the ultimate judge is God. I really admire the judges of the Supreme Court that we have. You exemplify, that attribute that this country must be. And even us in other arms of government, we look up to you. On behalf of governors, I thank you because you have stood for devolution. You have supported devolution in this country. I remember as a senator marching to court, we frog-marched our speaker. He didn't want to go. He's now a governor, Lusaka is governor again. We told him, you must go. Because at that point, we felt devolution was under threat. The deputy president was also there, marching to the court, Professor Kindiki. But we found solace. And many times, the judgments will not be popular to us or acceptable, but they must be respected. And so I am happy that we have judges who are immune to popularity. You don't have to make a decision whether that is popular. Leave popularity to President William Ruto, Professor Kindiki, PCS, and ourselves. We're the ones who want to be popular with the people. But for you, just do what is right, as sober as a judge, and our country will remain solid.
When you listen to what they're asking there, keenly you realize, if we are to allow the political class to do everything they want to do because they had canvassed it, when you're in the manifesto, you run a populist campaign. You say things that when they're subjected to, things even outside the legal framework of the country. And I want to use a very good example. When Ruto and Rigathi were campaigning, did they mention Shah? Did they mention the Adani JKA takeover? No. So when the country is litigating, litigation on public policies, apart from it, it also gives the civil society organizations and other stakeholders to have an input. Before we wrote out Shah, who did we consult? The doctors are saying we never consulted. The KMPD say we were never involved. Everyone is saying we were never involved. And now patients are suffering because that transition from NHIF to Shah is a problem. Now as I speak to you, I have one of my subscribers, because we do charity, comes from Molo. She called and she's saying the child is due for some surgery in India. there is some gentleman, I think someone who got interested in the case was offered to book for her a surgery that is supposed to cost 1.5 million. So she needs transport from here to India, which is I think around 240,000. And out of, it was supposed to be 1.5 million. NHIF, before it moved to share, had promised her that they were going to pay 450 out of the 1.5 million needed in India. Now, as we speak, she went to NHIF, now the current Shah, and she's told no money. Yes, she's listening to this podcast. She was told no money. So she's back to square one. Just yesterday, Lilian Gogo, the Rangwe member of parliament, was telling the president in Kibera that the Kenyan women are not safe. Because of that share, they've not been able to access medical services, where especially those ones who want to deliver. Now, when people go to court and challenge those policies, the president is saying, and you challenge those policies and they don't get a favorable judgment in court, they move on top of cars and start profiling the judges and judicial officials. And then you see, Martha Koome succumbs to that. Now, the court have said, housing levy, okay, it's affordable housing, it's within the framework. The courts have said, the courts have said Finance Bill 2023. Okay. Then the reason why this process has been catastrophic, Martha Koome seem to be working at the masses of the executive and judiciary. I've seen her multiple times talking about judiciary fund. Yes, you want judiciary fund. Judiciary fund is supposed to affect the effective, is supposed to help in effectiveness of discharging the duties for the judges, for small courts, decentralizing courts to ensure that access to justice, there is access to justice in every area, in every corner of the country. But at the same time, I tend to believe that while the tenure, the success of your tenure, you can attribute it to how many courts have opened worldwide, countrywide, and access to justice. However, you also need to be wary of the justice. You know, justice will give you good name. During this era, especially between after 2022, there have been high-profile cases that have been dropped. And Kenya has even complained, who between DPP and the courts and the DCI, who is the weakest link? There have been a lot of, between EACC, DPP and the courts, what's been the weakest link? There was an attempt, there's a judge who attempted even to stop case from being dropped. And I think the courts have not asserted that. They've been allowing those cases to go down after, because people get loopholes getting their way with it. Lastly, I tend to see, after Gen Z protests, there have been violation of human rights. And I've not seen the court coming into action. I remember when Masengeli was brought, I think there were sometimes the judges were even saying that if cases are launched on human rights violations and the government does not respond, the courts should even stop litigating all the government cases until the human rights cases are heard. Because it cannot be selective, that when government wants the courts to give okay to housing levy and which policy is fine. But when they are called to account for missing persons, disappearances, and police brutality, they don't appear. It cannot be that selective. So I believe what the Supreme Court was meant to be, to me, it has not lived to its mandate, especially on Martha Koome's era, tenure. Thank you. Is Penina Nyambura. This was huyu ndio shosh alikuwa peke yake, and let me just tell you how we provided solutions there. Huyu shamba alikuwa naisha alipewa, yes, they were given those allotment letters, but apparently nyumba alijengewa ilishanguka, so the grandchildren ndio walikuwa nyumba zao zilikuwa ziko hapo, so she was just using a makeshift structure. Now what would happen is when the grandchildren come, alisema she feels unsafe or she feels like anawafinyilia. Now she has to leave and go back to that kitchen, which is now the house yenye alikuwa amejengewa. So this house was built for Nyambura. She will use it alone, peke yake, and she was very happy. And may God bless you. Now, that is Penina Nyambura. This other one is Alice Kamande. But then apparently Alice akona watoto 6, she told us. Akona watoto 6. Some, there is only one, yule mwenye meona pale, tulikuwa na yeye. I think I showed her in the video. But the others awako there, and what she could not directly say, but we also gathered kwamba alcohol and illicit brew, it's a big problem. So she's also gotten that place. Malikuwa nalala ni kwa nyumba kingine kadogo ya mbao, and it was also destroyed. So she's got another one, and then the last one is Mzee Njuguna Munyu. Yeah, Njuguna Munyu. This one here, yeye pia anaishi peke yake actually in that home. Yes, anaishi peke yake, and he was telling me yeye ndiye alikuwa ananiambia hana choo. Yeah, so I tried telling some people there, nimeona huko wameweka stima. At least the local community sasa wale ambao the MCA there, they are trying to get contact, awajenge mzee show, ajenge mzee choo. Yeah, na pia ikewe maji so that mzee apate usaidizi. But if one of you will be willing, I can be able to directly link you so that mnaweza jengea mzee choo. Yeah, hiyo ndio shida pekee sasa yanabaki nayo. But of the house, he's gotten a house. And thank you, we've made an impact. That for sure, guys, I can tell you, we've really made good impact. If you want to partner with Granny Care in future, the number is there. And I want to tell you, Granny Care is the symbolic, the flagship project of the Bold Network. God willing, we are going to register it to a full foundation. We are in that process. But Granny Care is our project now. So this is a project that will move across different counties. We've done Kilifi, we've been to Kisumu, now we're in Nyandarua. We will go somewhere else. But if you want to partner with us and know more about, contact us and you can continue supporting. Hata kama unataka kujenga ingine ya Kilifi uliona, you can still reach out, you can still link and build another one if you want to support someone else. And now that is the program.
As the court celebrates the achievements it has had in the period of 12 years, in my view, it needs to introspect and identify any challenges that are there and make recommendations on how those challenges can be resolved. And it will do a lot better so that it serves the public as it is supposed to serve. It has done very well. With introspection, it can even do better.
As we celebrate 12 years of this court, Kenyans must remember where we have come from. From the days of a compliant, subservient judiciary, to the days of a bold and exceptionally respected judiciary. We must put our trust in our judiciary. We must put our trust particularly in the apex court, which is a court of finality. And we must give the court and the judiciary feedback. Where there are failings, let us know. Because one of the beauties about the current judiciary, it's a listening judiciary. It's a listening Supreme Court. And the openness that we are now exhibiting can only be for the good of the administration of justice and for the good of Kenyans. And so, as we celebrate these 12 years of this court, give us feedback. We shall introspect, and we can only make this court better and make our judiciary better for the sake of the great people of the Republic of Kenya.